Chapter 92. I don't know why I'm carrying on like this, said the princess. I guess Nina Jablonski was right when she called me a crybaby. She blew her nose. Sometimes a woman blowing her nose can sound as soft and poignant as a rubber horse deflating after being punctured by a seashell. The silly red-headed son of a bitch didn't know as much about love as I thought he did. He didn't even know as much about being an outlaw as I thought he did. Done in by a stupid Arab jailer. Jeez. But he was a genuine human being. By God, Bernard Mickey Wrangle was real. How can one person be more real than any other? Well, some people do hide and others seek. Maybe those who are in hiding, escaping encounters, avoiding surprises, protecting their property, ignoring their fantasies, restricting their feelings, sitting out the panpipe hoochie cooch of experience. Maybe those people who won't talk to rednecks, or if they're rednecks, won't talk to intellectuals. People who are afraid to get their shoes muddy or their noses wet. Afraid to eat what they crave, afraid to drink Mexican water, afraid to bet a long shot to win, afraid to hitchhike, jaywalk, honky-tonk, cogitate, osculate, levitate, rocket, bop it, sock it, or bark at the moon. Maybe such people are simply inauthentic, and maybe the jackleg humanist who says differently is due to have his tongue fried on the hot slabs of liar's hell. Some folks hide, and some folks seek. And seeking, when it's mindless, neurotic, desperate, or pusillanimous, can be a form of hiding. But there are folks who want to know and aren't afraid to look and won't turn tail when should they find it. And if they never do, they'll have a good time anyway, because nothing, neither the terrible truth nor the absence of it, is going to cheat them out of one honest breath of Earth's sweet gas. Maybe he was an insane bastard, but he was a genuine insane bastard, said Lee Cherie. And I loved him more than I've ever loved anybody, or ever will. At that, she began to blubber again. The clock was messing around with midnight. But midnight was messing around with her head when she found herself at the pyramid. There was no rational reason for being at the pyramid except that she couldn't sleep, didn't wish to disturb Julietta or her mom, and from her window she spied the limo driver in the alley outside her flat dozing at the wheel. She wanted to say, "Drive me to Algiers, to Bernard's grave. Or drive me to Husky Stadium, it's time for cheerleader practice. Or drive me to Hawaii, to Mu and the moon." But she'd said to the pyramid, and hoped against hope that there'd be solace there. In the clear desert night, the stars were wild as popcorn. The moon appeared to have already set, but the pyramid site was lit up like a midway. 30 or 40 workers were still on the job, applying finishing touches, readying the temporary wooden platform for the morning's ceremonies. The entrance was wide open, which was lucky because she'd forgotten her key. She walked down the long corridor to the central chamber. Adjacent to the central chamber was a fully equipped physics laboratory and several nicely appointed offices, including an office of her own. The central chamber had been left bare, however. It was strictly unadorned stone. The central chamber was where the magic happened, and in an effort to keep it as much like the Great Pyramids as possible, Lee Cherie hadn't even allowed it to be wired for electricity. There were several oil lamps affixed to the granite walls, and that was that. The lamps were antiques. They might have illuminated Cleopatra's pajama parties, and it took Lee Cherie 5 minutes of fumbling to get one burning. When it finally blazed, she shrieked, for its fire revealed a figure lurking in the chamber. she was not alone. Chapter 93. Excuse me. Initially, she thought it was a workman. Then the lamplight fell on his bright red beard. She shrieked again. Her spine tingled like the elements in a toaster. Not that she was in any mood for rye. Holy Mother of God, the surpriser! It was one of them. What do you say to an Argonian space traveler in a pyramid at midnight? Care for a camel, sailor? Lee Cherie didn't say anything. She'd lost the ability to speak. She just stood there with the toaster trying to decide whether to faint or not, until the red beard understood that if there was going to be any conversation, he'd have to get the ball rolling. So he opened a mouthful of ruined teeth and said, "Hello, Dragonbait." She fainted. Chapter 94. She woke up with her head on a bomb. He'd made her a pillow out of his jacket and hadn't bothered to take the dynamite out of it. "You're dead." "Not so." "Not so?" "You can bank on it." She was blinking rapidly and swallowing hard. "Well, then, a mistake? Only natural." "Was this one of your cute tricks?" "Nope, this was a matter of luck. Good luck for me, bad luck for Bird Feeder." "Who?" "Bernard, I haven't seen you in 2.5 years. First you're dead, then you're not. Who are you talking about?" "What are you talking about?" "A con man named Purdy Bird Feeder did me what I thought was a favor. Apparently I erred, but that's another story. Purdy, the purse, had a mind to retire to the French Riviera. He heard that business opportunities were handsome there. I arranged for him to meet a bartender in Pioneers Square, a pal who was minding my personal papers. Out of 14 possible passports, Purdy chose the one with my legal alias on it." "Your legal alias?" "Yeah. Alias Bernard M. Rangel. My real name is Baby." "Don't laugh. I'm sensitive." "Anyhow, Bird Feeder didn't fare well on the Riviera. He split for North Africa, still using my passport. He didn't fare so hot there either. Algiers must have been a rotten place to die, although I suppose it's preferable to Tacoma." "Bernard, what are you doing here?" "Right now I'm wondering whether or not you're glad I'm undead." Lee Cherie rose shakily to her feet. She was practically as tall as Bernard, and she looked him in the eye for a long time. "Once, in Hawaii, before I hardly even knew you, I thought you'd been arrested, and for some reason I went running to your boat in a panic. Tonight, I thought you were dead. There wasn't any boat to run to." She intended to continue, but the crybaby in her reared its salty head. Bernard put his arms around her. She put hers around him, and they stood that way for, well, who knows how long. Long enough for the two eunuchs who'd followed Lee Cherie to the pyramid to figure it was a development worth interrupting Abin Fizzle's bachelor party for. Chapter 95. "What are you doing here, Bernard?" "Something corny and dramatic. I have tendencies." "Come to rescue me, have you? Peel the dragon bait off the hook?" "I came to make Boom Boom." "Jesus, I might have guessed. Here? Right here?" She stepped out of his embrace. "It'd take a nuke to dent this rock pile. I stopped in here for a nibble of pastry." He gestured at the many-layered wedding cake that sat upon the table at the far end of the chamber, "while waiting for the coast to clear so I could climb to the top. I was going to blow off the point." "Why, for God's sake?" "A wedding present. There was nothing else I could give you that Fizzle doesn't already own 6 of. Boom Boom." "You'd have known it was me?" "Naturally. You have a talent for bombing the wrong target." Ouch. That stings. But listen, the pyramid on the dollar bill has had its top lifted off. It's tradition, or self-fulfilling prophecy. So, what do you mean, wrong target? Aside from being incredibly beautiful, this rock pile, as you call it, is the most important structure to be built on the planet in thousands of years. You, of all people, should understand that. How do you figure? You were alone with the package of camels. Didn't you get the message? Which message? I was advised not to look for premiums or coupons and that smoking is dangerous to my health. I was referring to a different message, which is, if you don't know, and I'm not convinced that you don't, there isn't time now for me to tell you. That's right, 0 hour is fast approaching. Lee Cherie, I can't believe you're marrying a guy with black hair. Hair's got nothing to do with it. But while we're on the subject, I don't like your beard. Makes you look like Jack the Ripper. Jack never wore a beard. Are you hostile because I was going to knock the tip off your pyramid? That and your note. Ah, the note. That note was all punch and no moves, I admit. It sounded a whole lot harsher than intended. I was annoyed at the publicity. It smacked of the old save the world syndrome, but I wasn't meaning to be cold, barking at the moon. What about it? That's all our love was to you? That's all love ever is. Love is not a harpsichord concert in a genteel drawing room. And it sure as hell isn't Social Security, Latrell, the Irish sweepstakes, or roller disco. Love is private and primitive and a bit on the funky and frightening side. I think of the Luna card in the tarot deck, some strange, huge crustacean, its armor glistening and its pincers wiggling, clatters out of the pool while wild dogs howl at the bulging moon. Underneath the hearts and the flowers, love is loony like that. Attempts to housebreak it, to refine it, to dress the crabs up like doves and make them sing soprano always results in thin blood. You end up with a parody. There's lots of pretty sounds that describe like, but love is more on the order of barking. Sorry about the note, though. I wrote you another, softer one, but by the time I'd lined up the postman, you'd already galloped out of Seattle on the Sultan's main dromedary. Maybe I couldn't blame you, but I could ache. Lee Cherie walked back into his arms. He'd been standing with them open like a bear in a taxidermist's window. Again, they hugged for a long time, holding on to one another and not quite sure why. It was in that position, looking over Bernard's shoulder, that she saw Aben fizzle at the chamber entrance. She felt the twitching of certain major nerves, but before she could direct a reaction in any one of her muscles, Fizzle slammed the door. She held her breath, straining to hear if the key was going to turn in the lock. It turned.